Patreon.com/the Walk-Off Podcast. $4 a month gets you in there. Pitch clock temperature check. Scott, let's start with you. You love this thing, right? Games are flying by. Even the long games are fast games, right?
Well, I'll be honest. I was a little surprised by how fast the pace was yesterday watching the game. And then today, I was already kind of used to it. And today's game was still 3 hours and 20 minutes. Like 9-5 games are still going to be lengthy games. So I don't know. I know there's a lot of hate out there for the pitch clock right now, and I've seen several people express the sentiment of the one thing that separates baseball from other sports is the lack of a clock. Everyone's against this clock, right? They're just Captain Hook out there in Neverland. Clocks are bad. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I honestly think that all of the players are going to get used to this. What we saw yesterday happen to end the game on the pitch clock violation. Come important games, that is never going to happen, right? Like these guys are going to get the rhythm of it. And I kind of was intrigued by some of the comments from pitchers, right? We heard Robbie Ray come out and say, Yusei Kikuchi even said that it helped him get in a rhythm and helped him keep his mechanics quick and tight and moving forward. Because baseball players and sports athletes in general, right? You give them too much time, you get in your head, you overthink things. So maybe speeding the game up for some guys like Kikuchi actually works out in the benefit of that pitcher.
I heard a conversation. Shi Davidi was saying Pete Walker and Chris Bassett apparently have plans to use this pitch clock timing to their advantage, getting set early and then making the batter hold for like a long 7-8 seconds. And just draining it right down to 15 before they actually do their delivery. So I thought that's a fun idea. Joel, I saw you had a TikTok today about the pitch clock. Let's go to you.
Well, yeah, it's first of all that Braves Red Sox game, to have that happen when it happened, for it to be a moment where a game ends, bases loaded, as literary as you could write the situation, that happens to start the season. Like that's why all the arguments are happening, and it's such a potent issue. What I did on my TikTok was I just said, like, I kind of wish it would be approached more like almost like kickboxing or MMA, where there's a warning and then there's like yellow card, and then on your third strike you're going to get penalized, right? It's not like that the fact that the first breach could be in such a pivotal moment and you're penalized like that, like there's 3 strikes in baseball, right? So like it's almost like hit by pitch. I was using that as an example earlier. A guy gets hit on your team, the other team gets hit, then you warn both dugouts, and the next guy gets hit, then the manager and the pitcher.
Yeah,
right?
if you hit a batter, he shouldn't just get a free base. You should have to hit him 2 or 3 times before he gets a free base. Right? That's what we're getting at. No, the first 2 are just a warning shot. Quit crowding that plate. I'm going to hit you again if I have to.
Yeah, it's just like early on in the game, these situations come up and you get your warnings out. And then if it happens again, then I'm not mad, right? Like if it's the first time you commit a fault on the pitch clock, it's in this vital time in the game, right? And something happens, a lead change, the game is over in this situation, and it was the first time you did it, like that stings to me. It's just like,
but I feel like that was a warning shot. Like game 1 of spring training, they were like, okay, this is a big time warning. It actually can affect a game. It doesn't matter right now, so we might as well do it in the lowest stakes possible scenario.
Oh yeah,
I tend to
happen day
agree
1,
with
right?
Scott.
Day 1, it couldn't have been a crazier situation for it to happen in, right? Bases loaded, 9th inning.
I mean,
2 outs.
For baseball's perspective, this is terrible timing because it does just justify all of the people who had any concerns about a pitch clock, right? Because
that's what I'm saying. It's become an issue.
Imagine this was Game 7 of the World Series, right?
But that's exactly what happens, right? Like you instantly imagine the worst possible situation on the very first day of spring training, right? It's just.
Johnny, what do you think about the pitch clock?
I'm becoming a pitch clock enthusiast.
Enthusiast.
I'm all in on the pitch.
You got the
clock.
merch coming yet, or what?
Yeah, I'm all in on the pitch clock. I think the pitch clock, Chris Bassett, what some guys on the other podcast I do tell me, they call him the human rain delay. They hate facing him because he takes 8 hours to pitch. I think it eliminates that, honestly. Like, I know it's not really catering to the already baseball fan. Obviously, I mean, you watch baseball because you love it. You don't really care how long it is. I just think in this new generation, this new age of sport, like, football has clocks, everything has clocks. Like, it eliminates watching a guy like Chris Bassett, or there's other guys, obviously I can't name off the top of my head, just take 17 hours to throw a baseball or just go through the motions and stuff like that. I think it's good for the game. Like, today's game was obviously a little bit longer, but it was just it was kind of weird. But yesterday's game kind of goes towards it a little bit. There was base runners on, there was home runs, and it was a fairly short game. I think it makes the most sense to do this pitch clock. And there's nothing that really pisses me off more than going to a Jays game during the week and coming home at 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. Sorry, because the game just finished and I was there for 5 hours watching whoever pitch because they took 8 hours to pitch on the mound. So
Well,
I think
we've all suffered through 30, 40-minute Rafael Dolis innings a couple
Tyler
years
Chatwood,
ago,
to say the
like,
least.
You
Yeah.
know, like, we don't need with zero action, right? Like 30 minutes, no runs scored, a couple walks, just like, you know, that's what hopefully this eliminates.
I just think it makes the most sense for the game, man. I mean, like, obviously with the new changes with the bases, with like the pickoffs, which I don't necessarily agree with the pickoffs and stuff like that, but the changes with like the bases and making it more friendly to steal bases and more runs and more run production and all that type of stuff, I think it makes the most sense. And obviously from a big leaguer's perspective, I'm sure these big league guys hate playing behind Chris Bassett when he's taking an hour on the mound to pitch. Like, it just, all aspects of the game, I think it makes sense. And I think we're 2 days into spring training. I think people are going to over exaggerate no matter what, but I think it makes the most sense for the game of baseball. And I think it's going to be unnoticeable like 2 weeks into the big league season where we're not even going to really care about it.
Jen, how do you feel?
I genuinely didn't expect to like it, to be completely honest, but I'm kind of loving it, actually. And when they first announced the change, I was thinking of it more from the pitcher perspective and speeding things up for the pitcher and the potential for injury and things like that. But I didn't realize how much I disliked watching a batter adjust his gloves and adjust his hat and all that other nonsense. Right. And this eliminates all of that because there isn't just a pitcher clock for the pitcher. It's also for the batters as well. Right. So I like that both sides have to get in there and just be ready.
Garth,
Agreed. Yeah. Like,
you want to weigh in here?
I read somewhere that when they put in the pitch clock in the minor leagues, the first week they averaged about 2.4 infractions per game for the first little while. Within 6 weeks of them doing it, they were down to less than one infraction every 2 games.
Yep.
That's insane.
It is going to be a non-issue
Like by the time the season starts.
by the time the season starts.
But Garth,
Like,
to piggyback off what you're saying, what I don't understand is like why people are so against it. Like, do you like going to a baseball game for 5-6 hours? Like, I don't understand why these baseball purists out there are so mad about a pitch clock that is literally, I am willing to guarantee, I might old take exposed body bag people on Twitter because there is going to be no one complaining about it 2 weeks into the big league season.
No. Okay, what the baseball purists want? Baseball has evolved from the second it became baseball. Okay, like what the fuck? We're gonna wear those like old weird gloves? You know, like what are we gonna get back to?
Get the numbers off the uniforms.
No batting
we're gonna
helmets.
Allow like people to spit chewing tobacco on the ball. Like, baseball purists are full of shit because they're like, well, it's true. Like, the game has evolved for the last 140 years. So, like, yes, like, is it a big change in the game? Of course it is. So is lowering the mound. So is allowing black people to play. Games change. The game changes. And, like, I don't think it's going to be an issue. And for anybody who thinks that, like, that shit's going to happen, bases loaded, 9th inning, game 7 of the World Series, like, if you're that fucking stupid that you can't get in the box on time, that's on you. You've had a whole season. If you're not zoned into the game when it matters like that, then you're an idiot and you'll lose the game for your team. Like it's never gonna happen.
Well,
Never
and all
gonna
that
happen.
screwing around, like games used to be shorter, yes?
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, back
So-
in the 70s and 80s, they averaged about 2.5 hours a game.
Right,
Yeah, the
exactly. So
80% of the history of baseball, it has been a 2-hour game until
Yeah.
massive bullpen moves where starting pitchers don't go 9 innings anymore and you're making
Well-
6 different changes. The game expanded into this massive chess situation literally through the 90s and the 2000s. So for 80% of the game's
go-
history, it has
yeah.
been a 2-hour experience. You're not
Go
supposed
look
to
at
watch
90s games. Go watch some Nomar Garcia Parra tape. Like I posted today on Twitter, like I don't know how that guy didn't get plunked 5 times a game. He took like 25, 30 seconds after each pitch, adjust his gloves. He had like a weird little ritual he went through. And it was fucking annoying back then. Like,
and that's not baseball either, right? Like that's not
Yeah.
what you're paying to watch.
no, I don't give a shit about that. Like, play the game. I love it. And like I said, it won't be an issue. Like there will be gamesmanship, like the whole Bassett, getting
Mhm.
ready, he's locked in, making that guy stand there for 10 seconds. Like there'll be gamesmanship and it'll go both ways. So like I just think that it's mountain out of a molehill. The minor league loves it. It's gonna be great up here too.
I think pitching duels will be really exciting too, because these guys will be locked in and we're going
Yeah.
to see a game. We're going to see these games that we haven't seen in forever clock out at like just masterful pitching matches clock out at like 2 hours and 10 minutes. Like it's going to be wild and it's going to be so
We're gonna
cool.
see like Maddox and Burley type games where it's like
Yeah.
an hour and 54 minutes. Like they're just gonna
Oh.
fly by.
If that happens, advertisers are going to push back.
But they still get the same amount of ads. There's still the same amount of innings.
I don't know.
They still
I
have
don't
their
know.
ad.
I
breaks
made a
between
good point.
innings.
I actually made this point on today's episode.
Hold on. I
like-
love the way Johnny's
I-
coming in here, complimenting himself on his way through the door.
No,
I
no,
made a
I'm
good
not
point
calling
the
myself-
other
I
day.
made a point. Like I don't know if I actually said on the podcast that it might be like the dumbest take of all time. But is this gonna? And I saw Tyler Matzik tweet it and stuff like that. But is this gonna affect like the prices of just like food and beverages at ballparks, because the games are going to be shorter, which means less time to purchase like beer, to purchase hot dogs, to purchase that type of stuff? Are the owners going to be mad about like the hit they're going to take on that stuff being bought and stuff like that?
No, no more $14.
Like pray
beer
for
nights.
Rogers. I don't know. Pray for Rogers. I mean, they might take a hit here. We might be spending $50 at the Corona Lounge this year
Hey,
to make
you know
up
what?
for the 30-minute difference.
We laugh, but it's going to be a factor. I mean, we'll see if there's an adjustment mid-season, but once they look at their books at the end of the year, that might be a real thing if games are shorter and they're selling less hot dogs.
It
But if you're
just might
selling
mean
more
people are buying
tickets-
2 drinks at a time.
What if you're selling more tickets though, because more people want to go to games?
I don't
Get
know
out of
if
here
it's
with your
gonna-
logic, Joel.
I don't know if it's going to sell more tickets though. Like, I don't know if like kids in high school are like,
No, I'm
hey
saying
man,
that's what you're weighing against each other, right? That's if you sell more tickets and you got more people in the stands, that might be able to offset the fact that they're not in the stadium that long, right? It's and we'll only see when the numbers come in later if the pitch
I
clock is
actually-
gone. We know that they're not selling anything, right? So
Am I the only one who thinks that speeding up the game by half an hour isn't going to affect the number of people who go to a game? Because if you're
I
not a
don't think
baseball
it is.
fan, you're not
I
a fan.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, I don't know
gonna
how it
change.
affects any viewing numbers this
like I don't think
season.
high school kids are saying, hey man, you want to go to a Jays game? It's only 2 hours and 45 minutes now, not 3 hours
I
and 30
teach high
minutes. Like,
school, and
we'll
I
just-
can tell you right now that the teenagers are not, unless they're into baseball, right? Which very few are, but there are some who are diehard baseball fans and they play baseball and so on and so forth. The rest of them, like, they don't care. They don't even think it's interesting that I do any of this stuff because they're like, it's baseball. Like,
It's not going to be a immediate results kind of change. I don't think this is about getting that new wave of viewers, that kid that's growing up watching with her mom or dad or her grandparents, and being able to retain that attention span. I think this is a long-term play more than a what are the numbers going to really be different this year. And
Yeah.
God, I hope if MLB has a little bit more of foresight than to just evaluate after this year to scrap the whole thing. Joel, we'll end with you, and then we'll move on to sticky stuff because we do have a lot to get to.
My idea on it bringing new fans is like, first of all, the idea that 162 games at 3 hours and 15 minutes a game, that's asking fans to watch Lord of the Rings 162 times a year. That's a lot of time commitment, right? When you're able to cut that down 10-15% as a
I like that
piece
you're
of
using
time,
Lord of the Rings as a measurement.
right?
That is
Like that's what I
fantastic.
Which character did Tom Cruise play in
long.
Lord of the
I'm trying to-
Rings?
A standard metric here is Lord of the Rings is a 3 hour and 15-minute venture, right? That's a standard metric across the board. But yeah, no,
Sorry, Tom Cruise had to have been a Hobbit, right? Short joke,
yeah,
boom,
he
got it.
could have been a great Hobbit. But also
No
the idea
makeup
that,
needed.
to me, baseball is exciting when you compact it all together. To me, balls in play, the game is exciting. But when there's 40 seconds in between moments of action, kids are going to be down on their phones. There's a reason to go down on your phone when 60%, 70% of the game is not the game. So the more that you compact and turn 2 hours into as much fast action baseball as possible, more balls in play, more highlights, more TikTok videos to see, more stuff, just in a compacted way, you can hopefully grab more fans.
I hear you, but also other than playoff sports, every sporting event is a second screen opportunity. Whether the game is clipping by at a fast pace, 15 seconds between pitches or not. Blue Jays games in May are something you have on while you're doing your homework. Like it is anybody here, of the six of us here, is anybody honestly watching with their undivided attention, like it's an episode of Game of Thrones, any Blue Jays game throughout the course of the year that isn't like with actual stakes on the line?
I've never seen Game of Thrones.
Holy Jen, come on.
Lord of the Rings was the metric.
We did a couple prospect interviews, and Scott was asking these guys what they thought of, what was it, Friends? And Chris Beck had never seen Friends, and you asked Hagen Danner his thoughts on Sopranos. Hagen Danner goes,
And he's
what's a soprano? Oh.
He also said he liked classic rock and then named Eve 6.
Oh,
yeah, we felt old.
I-
All right.
God.
I
would've
have
fucking
sat
died of
down
old
and
age
given
that like immediately.
Yeah.
I have sat down and given games my full attention, but certainly not 162 a year. But it's on in the background and you're at least paying, it's at least 50-50, right? I guess.
Right, but what I'm saying is you're not watching more undivided because of the pitch clock, are we? Is that the difference? Like we're still multitasking. We're got the Jays game on while we're cooking dinner, while we're playing a video game or whatever. I don't know.
I think that's true of most sports.
No, I agree. All sports, other than playoff sports, I would absolutely agree.
So just a few comments on YouTube here before we move on to the next topic. I know Eric Hansen says it's not so much the length of the games as it is pace of play with more action in theory. And that is why some of these other rule changes were made, obviously hoping for more pace of play. Derek chimes in on when we were talking about like prices going up because the length of the game going down. And he says they just need to open the gates earlier, happy hour specials. And that actually might be something they do, right?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. And then Blue Jays TikTok says everyone is living in this microwave society and have lost the ability for the long game. So yes.
There you go. Microwave your Blue Jays games. All right, let's pivot from there then.